'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where you ought to be. And when you find yourself in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight.
When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be true, 'tis the gift to labor till the day is through. And when you find yourself in the place so fine, will be in the cool of the birch and the pine. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
Tis the gift to be joyful, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift, 'tis the gift, 'tis the simple gift to be. And when you find yourself filled with pure delight, the gift to be simple has led you aright. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. In the place just right, till by turning we come round right.
Welcome, friends, to this time of renewal and hope. Here we welcome your tender places and yearnings to be fully present. Welcome, sweet soul, to this place of meaning and belonging. Here we welcome your questions and wonderings on this journey towards wholeness. Welcome, sweet soul, to this place of compassion and heart. Here we welcome you, all of you. We invite you in as you are, as we are. Here we welcome you to renew your connection to the spirit of life, renew your relationship with the sacred, the interdependent web of all existence. Come, let us worship together.
morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Deborah Schmidt, and I'll be your worship associate today. This is a welcoming congregation, and we are always working on how to better welcome and care for one another. If this is your first time joining us, we are so glad you've come. Whoever you are, we welcome you in the fullness of who you are. As we begin, we want to take restorative action. We affirm that this is deeply felt and commit our congregation to be in right relationship with Indigenous communities, aligning in solidarity, supporting Indigenous projects, and caring properly for the land. Now, please take a moment to prepare yourself and your space for our time together. You might want to bring a candle and a way to light it so that you can join in the chalice lighting from your home. As Reverend Michelle lights the chalice flame, let's kindle our own flames along with her to these words by Suzelle Lynch. Each time we light the chalice, we renew our commitment to our Unitarian Universalist faith. With the spark of a match, we make it new again, as fresh and surprising as the first day we encountered this spiritual community and realized we were home. We also pause to remind ourselves of some of the foundations of resilience. With Reverend Michelle, we light a candle of courage, a candle for acts of service, a candle of fellowship, and a candle of hope. May we find and cultivate these in ourselves and in one another. Now, please join us in singing our opening song, hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. The words will be on your screen. Please join with me in saying our covenant. Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose: to give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
and stands above the woodland ride, wearing white for Eastertide. Now of my threescore years and 20 will not come again, and take from 70 springs a score, it only leaves me 50 more. And since to look at things in bloom, 50 springs are little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hung with snow.
For our time, probably fancy mics. There we go. For our time for all ages this morning, I chose a story in honor of Women's History Month, which I recently learned began on February 28th in 1909 after a meeting of women socialists and suffragettes in Manhattan. So now I'm going to tell you a bit of a story from UU history, the story of Olympia Brown. When Olympia Brown was little, girls weren't supposed to whistle. Girls weren't supposed to climb trees or run fast or catch frogs. Come on, frogs are awesome. But Olympia did. She did all those things and more. You can do whatever a boy can do, her mother and father told her, and Olympia knew it was true. She climbed trees and ran fast and caught frogs, and when she was in school, she answered the teacher's questions out loud and clear. Little girls ought to be quiet, said one lady in town. Little girls ought not make themselves heard. Olympia didn't mind that, though. She had a voice, and she was going to use it every day. When Olympia Brown was a teenager, young women weren't supposed to go to college. Young women weren't supposed to leave home and go off and learn complicated things. But Olympia did. She did all those things and more. Olympia left home and went to Antioch College. She went to class and studied and learned all kinds of complicated things. Young women ought not be in school, said one professor at that school. But since they're here, they must read their reports. Women ought not give speeches from memory like the men. But Olympia did. When it was her turn to present her report, she rolled up the papers in her hand and said each and every word loud and clear. Olympia had a voice, and she was going to use it every day. When Olympia Brown was in college, women were not supposed to wear pants. Women weren't supposed to wear anything except very long dresses that came all the way down to their toes. But Olympia did. She wore dresses that came only past her knees. How scandalous. Pants. Bloomers, the pants were called, after Amelia Bloomer, the woman who had created them just a few years before. Women ought not show their ankles in public, exclaimed some of the men, and women ought certainly not wear pants. But Olympia did. She wore her bloomers every day, no matter how much the men sneered. When Olympia was finished with college, women were not supposed to be ministers. Women never stood up in front of a congregation and talked about God or anything religious, but Olympia did. She did all those things and more. Olympia graduated from the theological school at St. Lawrence University in 1863. and she was ordained as a Universalist minister in June of that year, the second woman ever to be ordained by the Universalist Church. She became the Reverend Olympia Brown. Women ought not speak in public, said a minister at that time. Women ought not take the pulpit or discuss the nature of God or any of these things. But the Reverend Olympia Brown did. During the next 35 years, she was a minister to 5 different congregations, and she visited other congregations too. She took the pulpit in every single one and spoke on the nature of God and love and life and the world and did an excellent job. Olympia Brown had a voice, and she used it every day. When Olympia Brown was born, women weren't allowed to vote. Women weren't allowed to have any say in who was elected president or senator or mayor of the town where they lived. But Olympia had something to say about that. It wouldn't surprise you that she had a lot to say. She traveled all over the state of Kansas in a horse and buggy, giving speeches to convince people that women deserved the right to vote. She wrote hundreds of letters. She spoke to the representatives and senators in Congress. She marched in parades. Olympia and her friends worked hard to get women the right to vote. Olympia Brown had a voice, and she used it every day for over 50 years. And finally, Olympia Brown was old at the time. Finally, women were allowed to vote. And then in November of 1920, Olympia, at 85 years old, voted for the very first time. Olympia always had a voice. She'd used it to make sure that she and all the women in the United States had a vote as well. And this is one of the things that I love about Unitarian Universalism, is that we can hold and celebrate and nurture this kind of history and the leadership of women everywhere in our denomination.
May peace follow you, quiet your heart. May hope follow you, be your light. Be your light, be your light. May love follow you, hold you in its hand until we meet again. Amen.
We now enter the time in our service that we make for our hearts and our spirits, for our cares and concerns for one another. We lift up and hold the joys and sorrows and challenges we may each be facing. During our time of care and compassion this morning, I especially lift up our continued care and thoughts for the people of Ukraine as they continue to fight for their independence and sovereignty. I also, at this time, lift up those in our country who still are denied the right to vote. either through systemic denial or through voter suppression efforts that are happening in many parts of our country. Hold these in the embrace of this loving community. Let us join now in a time of silence. Please join now in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, beloved of our hearts, receive our prayer. Holy One, at times our spirits are like dry bones, devoid of moisture, cracked and brittle, weary with life. At times we feel absent and apart from the rest of the world, cast adrift. People are around us continuing on and seeming to have everything figured out. Spirit of life, nourish our spirits with your cascading love. Remind us that we are held in the sacred, interdependent web of all creation. Remind us the spark of the divine within us and radiating out from us, giving life the shape of justice and showing love that can guide us through difficult times. May we bathe in that which is eternal. May our thirst for life be drenched in your living waters. May our faith be renewed again this day. Amen, and blessed be. And now we'll join in singing Winds Be Still. The words will be on screen.
Winds be still.
Our Unitarian Universalist faith draws from many sources, including humanist, Christian, and Jewish teachings, the words of prophetic people in many times and places, and wisdom from other traditions. Each Sunday we hear from many of them, but the first source of our liberal faith is our own personal experience of life. This morning I want to share with you a poem I wrote in gratitude for this church. And the bright air shone. Under this tree we were married. It's so much taller now. The fountain was filled with flowers from the gardens of our friends, and the bright air shone with love. Here on the chancel, our babies were welcomed in and blessed. The young ones grew. Their voices joined ours in prayer and song, and the bright air shone with music. And to this room, by the fireside, our friends and family came to mark our mother's passing, to celebrate her life, and the bright air shone with remembrance. Moments of understanding, times of transcendent grace, heart-to-heart connections, such memories fill this place. But in all these treasured moments, the thing that moves me most is the stillness we enter together when a story touches our hearts and the bright air shines with spirit.
Good morning. My name is Tom Tripp, and I've been asked to explain why Karen and I support UUCB. But to understand this, first we have to talk a little bit about how we got here. My grandfather was a Presbyterian minister, and I was brought up and confirmed a Presbyterian in Madison, Wisconsin. Karen was brought up Presbyterian near Buffalo, New York. Our parents were active, so active in fact that they each, many years apart, left their churches and became charter members of new churches. They founded new churches. Karen and I were married in a Presbyterian church, and we brought our kids up in a Presbyterian church. As a young boy, though, my parents kind of messed it up. My parents moved us to Central Java, a country of Indonesia. We lived there for 2 years. Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world. Java has largely Hindu culture with many Christians, Jews, Buddhists. We lived near the largest Buddhist shrine in the world. We lived as a racial minority. So, don't need my mask, do I? Our parents were both musicians, so they immersed us in the local culture. They bought the Javanese gamelan that's here in the music room right now, and made us study the language, the traditional dance and music. We believe that we were the first Americans to perform Javanese music and dance in the Sultan's Palace in Yogyakarta, Java. Then we returned from Indonesia, and I had a very, very difficult time returning to the teachings, creed, dogma, and ceremony of the Presbyterian Church. I really left religion behind when I went to college and vowed never to go back. But then Karen encouraged our children to attend church. They were confirmed Presbyterians. I remained uncomfortable with church and attended seldom. One Sunday, Karen and I visited a Unitarian church. I was inspired to see all of the flags of the world religions in one room. It was really pretty remarkable. That became a place that I felt I could probably be comfortable finally. So then in 2007, after about 40 years living and working in Buffalo, New York, I took a job offer in Oakland, California, of all places, and we moved here. During the transition, I was often alone for several weeks. So on my very first Sunday, which was just about 15 years ago in 2 weeks, I looked in the yellow pages, you know, the old books, the big yellow pages, and I found 2 Unitarian churches, one in Oakland and one in a place called Berkeley that I'd never heard of. But so I just drove up here all by myself and walked in, and I was welcomed so warmly And much to my whole family's surprise, I kept coming back. Everybody knew I was never going to go to church again. And then when Karen joined me here, she started coming here as well. And now we've been active for just about 15 years. We finally found a place that we could both enjoy. So Karen has served on the nominating committee, the capital campaign committee. She's attended and led chalice circles. She's led book groups, knitting groups, and she's planned and supported many church social events, which is one reason we really miss this place. I've served on buildings and grounds, capital campaign committees, endowment project oversight, men's group, the gamelan group, of course, and I've been an usher. But why do we donate? I guess that's the real question. When I first walked in the door, I was greeted by a wonderful, supportive community, so I kept coming back. When Karen joined me, she felt the same way. And much like what Deborah was saying, this community helps us to learn and expand our knowledge and causes us to further investigate local, national, and international issues. The sermons have piqued our curiosity. We often go home and research the issues and look them up and study more. This community does not tell us what or how to believe, but encourages us to develop our own faith and support our own beliefs, whatever they may be. This community has an active focus on social justice, which we love. Community includes people from many of the world religions, and the sermons include wisdom from multiple faiths. Karen and I love the music, the choir, Katja, Brian, Daniel Schmidt in the gamelan, and all the other musicians here. We just love coming here. We like the small group ministry, the personal theology, the chalice circles, the men's groups. I consider the gamelan group my own small personal ministry, small group ministry. So we like the personal theology, etc. I even play my gamelan now every Thursday evening, and we're back doing that in person. So we pledge whatever cash we can afford. We donate our time to the best of our ability. We also contribute in the offertory, and we try to support this church with all of our time and our experience. So please pledge what you can. Support UUCB with your cash and your talents. It's worth every penny. I look forward to the end of the pandemic so we can all meet here again. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Asphrodites, and I've been asked to speak about what UUCB means to me. There are two questions related to giving that I have in mind this morning. The first is one that I have spoken about in the past. Why give? The answer has to do with my philosophy of giving and is grounded in simple math. It brings me joy to share generously 10% of my net income with organizations that match my values and interests. If I give away 10% of my income, then I have 90% left, which is enough. But the second question is the one I want to address this morning. Why give to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley? What does this congregation, this community, mean to me? And how does that inform my giving? The big picture. I want Unitarian Universalism to thrive in this world. I want to support UU's liberal religious message and its out and proud place among religions in the United States. The more immediate picture. I want UUCB to thrive. I value the central place that UUCB holds in my life deeply. Therefore, I give to ensure its vitality and health. COVID has been the backdrop of our lives over the past 2 years, challenging us in ways we hadn't expected. In addition to the uncertainty and upheaval wrought by COVID, many of our institutions have failed us. We have witnessed sharp divisions in this country, growing social inequality, and violence fueled by racism. In this context, we must choose to nurture institutions that support community and sustain us spiritually. It feels particularly critical now as we emerge from the collective trauma of the past few years and summon the commitment to participate in our democracy to bring about the change we wish to see in the world. We need each other as we move forward. Our church programs have supported us during these hard times, and now supporting our church feels like an imperative. On a more personal note, this church has given me more than I ever expected. 30 years ago, we joined UUCB as a family so that our child would hear a liberal religious message consistent with our values. RE, religious education, was our portal. What happened next was unexpected. I started coming to church for myself, to lean into what I call my religious impulse, something I had denied myself since leaving Catholicism as a young adult. I knew I didn't need salvation, but I did need spiritual sustenance, and Sunday mornings gave me that. Worship services pulled me in closer, and over time, my attachment to this community grew deeper and my involvement more meaningful. I could bring my whole authentic self here and be held in the embrace of beloved community. I feel joy and gratitude that our church has answered the call of love in all its forms over and over. I take comfort in knowing that our faith does not and will not look away from society's injustices, whether the concern is homophobia, or white supremacy, or immigration justice, or voting rights. Bearing witness has always been a foundational part of our UU heritage. Our faith is rooted in theological traditions that work for a more just and equitable world. And UUCB responds to that theological mandate by showing up. We put our UU faith into action. We are a religious community guided by love. That's why I value this church. That's why I give to this church more than to any other institution. In closing, I want to say that it's impossible for me to put a dollar figure on the value of UUCB in my life. Yet, how we spend our money shows what's important to us. So when I think about giving, this church takes priority. Of course, I continue to support art institutions that I care about, and public broadcasting that I believe in, and foundations whose missions I support. But this religious community is singular in its importance to my life. It is central to my sense of self and to my spiritual development, to my feeling of connection to the web of all existence, and to all of you, and to my hopes for a better world. For all of that, I pledge my financial support to this congregation. Thank you.
I've been a member of this congregation for many years. I was gifted by the universe to find this community, a community of people who are committed to love. People here demonstrate love through their extensive work in social justice, family ministry, widening the circle of concern, anti-oppression education, climate change advocacy, a beautiful music program, and being willing to come from their hearts to engage in authentic relationships. I've matured in this community and learned the values of deep listening, risking vulnerability, and softening my hard edges. Personally, I don't know what my life would be without my UUCB family. And so I love doing my financial part in keeping the lights on, the children's programs going, our staff paid with decent health care, and supporting the wider community, and also maintaining and fixing this wonderful church campus. However, this past year has been rough financially. I have to be honest. My husband and I couldn't provide as much financial support as we did in years past for helping this beloved community that means so much to us. We just hit a rough patch. And hard money decisions had to be made. But these hard money decisions will continue to include whatever financial commitment to UUCB that we can do. As co-chair of membership, some folks here have expressed to me that they don't have a lot of money to donate to the church. And I tell them what my church tells me. Your time and talent are so valued by this church. And if in addition to your time and talent, you're also able to share some of your treasure, well, the church is always grateful. I know that monthly commitments of any amount of money help UUCB to plan and continue to provide sanctuary for all of us. As many of you know, I stay deeply involved in activities at UUCB. And a lot of times it's me thinking up some fun project I want to do. And it's so exciting to have hundreds of people support me and help me actualize the ideas and programs for the church. I've never experienced this kind of support anywhere. At this church and in this community, you can stretch out and express so many parts of yourself that you never had the opportunity to do anywhere else. Here at UUCB, you can be a singer, a worship associate, a teacher, event planner, meditator, tech whiz, talk with the little ones, actively feed and house the homeless, present your personal theology, mentor the youth, support our sick and injured congregants, protest against injustices, grill foods on the patio for the congregation, hire our ministers. You can share your science and your spirituality, express your mind, your heart, your soul. And yes, learn to be with each other in the sacred space of dying. I wish I could give more to this wonderful church so that it could continue to change people's lives and continue to enhance and transform my life. But for now, I will continue to give what I can and hope that you're able to do so too. Thank you.
In 2014, I started looking for a church. I had gone to a few different churches, and ultimately, the church that I visited that I fell in love with was UUCB. UUCB had a combination of the perfect kind of community, lots of warm, welcoming people greeting me, a beautiful building, and probably most importantly, it had an incredible music program. The organ was lovely. The choir was so put together. The conductor was really nice and welcoming. I was looking for community that could provide me with a place to grow spiritually, but I knew that it was really important that I go to a church that had incredible music and a really dedicated and well-planned choir, because I knew that that was what was going to keep me going. I feel really lucky and really fortunate to have found UUCB, because despite the fact that I really came for the music, I stayed for the community. The community has been coming into my heart and stepping forward for my desperate need for this group for many years in many different ways. I've developed incredible friendships, loved incredible people, and learned incredible things from this group. I grew musically, but I grew spiritually, and I grew confidently because of what I learned from UUCB. This community has given me so much more than I had come asking for. When I was asked if I could give a little bit of a conversation about my choice to give during the stewardship campaign, I made the decision that I wanted to speak because despite the fact that I've moved to another state, I live very far away, I keep coming back. During incredibly dark and challenging times in my life, UUCB was the rock that I held on to. During times of celebration, UUCB was the place that I celebrated. And I know how important it is to sustain and grow this place for other people like me, far away or close by, that really need a loving community that provides the spiritual growth, the music, and the love that I know I receive here every time I visit, virtually or in person. It's been really inspirational to grow outside of being part of the choir, joining several committees, and now being a worship associate. I feel like I get to share my journey with this group of people in a way that I never expected that I would, because I never thought I had it in me. That growth is invaluable. And I encourage you to give to this church in whatever way you feel is right and possible for you. Give your voice. Give your love. Give your wisdom. And give financially if you can. Whatever is comfortable, or maybe slightly uncomfortable, it's like my singing in front of a group of people, or speaking online as a worship associate, despite my terrible stage fright. It's a gift that I could put myself outside of that comfort zone. And I give within my comfort zone financially. I make sure to give what I think I can without it causing hardship, but that I think will make a significant impact to this church. My gratitude feels like it can't be expressed for this community. And my unending joy, even living out of state, has really been fully realized by how loving everyone has been able to be for me and how much I can try to give in return. I look forward to seeing you all in person or online one day or another. And I'm grateful for everything that you all give to each other and to me. Thank you.
As we commit together to making this a loving community, we take time to remember that UUCB needs our gifts and support. We invite you now to make an offering. Each week, half our offerings are shared with a good neighbor organization that needs our financial support. And we appreciate so very much that you have continued to practice generosity with them during these difficult times. This month, our good neighbor is the Women's Cancer Resource Center. The Women's Cancer Resource Center helps women with cancer improve their quality of life through education, supportive services, and practical assistance. The organization serves people with any form of cancer from all backgrounds, economic levels, and ethnicities. Clients include people with new diagnoses, people in remission or survivorship, people living with metastatic disease, and those receiving end-of-life care. Offerings of any value are received with gratitude. Details on how to give electronically will appear on your screen as our offertory begins. Thank you. Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
It has been so good being together today in this completely online setting, but that's about to change. Isn't it fabulous? All right, starting next week, starting next Sunday, and for all Sundays following, as long as we can, we will have in-person service here. We will also be streaming, so if you're still comfortable viewing from home, if that's the most comfortable setting for you, or if you just need to catch up with the service later, or if you liked the service that much and want to watch it again, it'll be on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. So some things to keep in mind for our service. We are, as the board has passed a policy to require proof of vaccination status for coming here on site for large gatherings. Many folks have already checked in and we have it marked in our database, but you can bring your Vax card next Sunday and we'll get you checked in for the database. You can also schedule an appointment during this week if you'd like to, but you can also just bring the card. And we'll have some safety practices going on. We'll be asking for everyone to remain masked at all times while on campus. The only exception is the presenters while they're presenting. We're actually fully masked when we're behind the scenes, don't worry. And we'll be keeping distance. And we also have our wonderful, fantabulous air circulation system that makes the air in the sanctuary, the air in the social hall, the air in the fireside room, the equivalent of outdoor air. So next Sunday, we will be gathering, we will be singing hymns together, we'll be enjoying music together, we'll be enjoying just being together. I really can't look forward to I'm totally looking forward to it. And the other thing I want to introduce that I've been clicking with, we'll be talking about these in the next few Sundays. As you get your name tag next week, you will be invited to pick up one or more of these fabulous multicolored lanyards. So what do these lanyards mean? Oh, we're going to talk about consent. We're going to talk about consent for proximity and consent for touch. So what the lanyards mean, you'll have one of them on with your name tag, the lanyard of your choice. Red means, I'm being careful, please give me 6 feet. Yellow means, I'm okay with closer proximity, but not hugs. And green means, I'm okay with hugs, but please ask first. So red, I'm being careful, 6 feet please. Yellow, closer proximity is okay, but not hugs. And green, I'm okay with hugs, but please ask. Because as we know, as we work to respect one another and respect one another's choices and one another's space, we always need to ask before engaging in physical touch, especially in a public setting like church. So we'll be talking about these the next few Sundays, and you'll be able to pick up one, or if you may feel differently on different days, you can pick up more than one color so that you'll have them. All right, now are you all ready to close out worship? We have a fabulous song we're going to be closing with, Rising Green. I know this congregation has sung it before, but it's a little gem at the late in the Teal hymnal that is by Carolyn McDade, who is author of the beloved Spirit of Life. But now, Rising Green, the words will be on screen. Let's enjoy the song together.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak. Her sap doth run in my veins. Boundless my soul like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of old that outlaws eternity. That our love, that our love, that our love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. My
the way. Our faith, our wondrous faith, settles deep in the earth and into each one of us, rising green to bring a new day. Let us find that new day together. Blessed be.